This is For the Governed, a podcast series brought to you by Athalonz. Here are your hosts, Tim Markison and Ron Cates.
Welcome to another Athalonz podcast. This one is going to be super fun, educational, and entertaining all at the same time. I'm Ron Cates. As always, I'm joined by Tim Markison, the CEO and founder of Athalonz. Today's subject starts this way. Making a high-performance athletic shoe, particularly a golf shoe, is an incredibly complex operation. You've got weight and performance and style and comfort, and sometimes they don't always work in a straight line.
Right.
Tim, why don't we start out by you sharing your thoughts?
Yeah. Okay. So, the four things you mentioned, performance, comfort, weight, and style, those are kind of the four primary areas when designing an athletic shoe to consider. And from an Athalonz standpoint, we really cater to the athlete. We want to help an athlete perform at their best. And, as we've learned, as we study more and more about the effects the shoe or the role the shoe has in athletic performance, we know how vital it is to the athlete, where power comes from the ground up and that goes through the shoe. So we really put emphasis on performance of our shoe to help the athlete perform better. But it still has to be comfortable. So if it performs well, but it's uncomfortable to wear, or they're not going to wear it, it can't be too heavy. It has to have that right balance with weight. And then even if we get performance, comfort, and weight right, if they're an unappealing shoe, they don't have the style, then nobody but the diehard athlete is going to wear them. So you really have to have that right balance between performance, comfort, style, and weight.
Yeah, see, I've always thought, I don't care if it's the ugliest shoe ever made. If it improves my performance, I'll wear it without a problem. But I realize that not everyone is that way.
Correct. I'm of the same ilk. When I played baseball, I mean, if something were going to help me play better, and it did, and there was science to back it, I don't care what it looked like. If it made me play better, I would do it. And there's certainly golfers that are of that way, that mindset. But but given a choice between a shoe that helps me play better and looks like crap, and a shoe that helps me play better and looks nice, I'll take the one that looks nice. So we really had to come in and balance those things. But we also really emphasize performance. And what I mean by performance, because performance is used a lot when they talk about shoes, especially golf shoes and other athletic shoes. What we mean by performance is performance of the athlete. What most shoes companies mean is performance of the shoe. How durable is it? What materials did they use? The manufacturing processes. So that's what they're talking about. Most companies are talking about when it's performance. It's performance of the shoe. We're talking about athletic performance. So how do we help the athlete perform better? And when we look at performance, it really boils down to two things with respect to the shoe. So again, our power as an athlete comes from the ground up, through the shoes, the body-ground connection. So the shoes affect performance in two ways. It's how much energy do they absorb, and then how do they direct the forces of the body and the ground. So those are the two areas of a shoe that affect athletic performance. How much energy they absorb is really depending on the materials used for the insole, midsole, and outsole. And we'll just collectively call those the sole of the shoe. So the softer the material is, the more it will compress. So the more it compresses, the more energy it will absorb to compress. Now, why shoes go with a softer sole is to dampen the impact of the body hitting the ground. So when we run, it's 4 to 6 times our body weight for impact force.
Yeah, for an efficient runner, 4 to 6 times.
Yeah.
But for a basketball player doing a rebound, it could be 9 to 11 times your body weight.
Yeah. So, and these are on hard surfaces. So if you have a very hard sole, that impact force can damage your foot. And when you start to have pain in your foot, well, now you start to alter your athletic movement.
By the way,
Yep.
an efficient race walker
Yep.
hits the ground with about 1.2 times their body weight.
So yeah,
They don't need any
yeah.
cushioning.
Yeah, so they could go with a much harder sole on their shoe,
But
but
less energy loss,
Yeah.
and the comfort's not a factor.
Yep. So, but that's why most companies, and and now with so much emphasis on out of the box comfort for shoes, that's why companies are going with softer and softer materials, so that when you step on it, you really feel like you're walking on pillows, which is really nice for that comfort feeling. But from an athletic standpoint, all that compression is absorbing energy. So you have to have a force to move that. Well, that's force now that's being used to compress the shoe as opposed to going into your athletic movement.
Well, it's also physically changing the angle of your foot.
Right.
I remember, and then there's also the longevity of that midsole cushioning. When it's really soft,
Yeah.
it becomes permanently compressed fairly quickly. I remember Bernard Langer was talking to us about a shoe that he previously used before switching to Athalonz. It had a really soft, mushy midsole, but he'd have to change them so often because the midsole would be compressed.
Right. Yeah, and 3 to 4 times in a 3-day tournament. he
Yeah,
would have
most
to
people
change
can't
his shoes.
afford that unless they're
Yeah.
getting their shoes for
Yeah.
free.
And the thing for Bernard that was so frustrating is the outsole. The lateral side of the shoe. So as it compresses out, he's pushing his energy more and more away from his body. So the shoes are fighting his golf swing more and more.
Right. So a golf shoe, can definitely be way too soft.
Right. So as far as what works really well, so like a weightlifting shoe is a very hard sole. So a lot of them are made out of wood or a very, very hard rubber, because in that you're not worried about the impact of the body striking the ground. You want all of that energy going through the shoe to go into your lift. You don't want to be having that being absorbed in the shoe. So there's finding that right balance between comfort to protect the foot from impact, but it not being too soft, so you're losing all that energy.
Well, walking on a golf course would be 1.5 to 2 times your body weight at most.
Right.
So it would seem like cushion in a golf shoe it doesn't really have any big effect on how you feel in the shoe.
Yeah, for the most part, so in our shoe, we have a pretty solid, not a lot of cushion in our sole, for that reason. There's not a lot of impact, but I actually run in the shoe, and there's enough cushion to absorb the impact of my running. So there is enough that if somebody were going to run in our shoes, there's enough cushioning in there to not alter the athletic performance and protect the foot at the same time. The other area that the shoe comes into play with affecting athletic performance is how the forces go through the shoe between the body and the ground. And with respect to an athletic shoe, there's 3 forces that matter. There's the vertical forces, which is typically called ground reaction force, and we've talked about that before. And ground reaction force is becoming better and better understood in sports and studied more and more. The second force is the horizontal reaction force between the shoe and the ground. So that's or friction force, or that's the traction that the shoe provides. So you don't want to slip on the ground. And then the third force is another horizontal force, and that's between the foot and the shoe. And that one's hardly ever talked about. We've talked about it a bit before, but within the shoe, you don't want your foot sliding as you're trying to do your athletic movement, because that's all wasted energy. So starting with the ground reaction force, the vertical force. So every shoe that we've looked at, when we've cut off the toe and looked at the cross section of the forefoot, they all have some level of U-shaped. Some more pronounced, some less pronounced, but they all have a U-shape. And the challenge with the U-shape is when you're trying to stay on the inside of your legs, especially for a golf swing, the shoe is actually pushing your force away from you. So those shoes are pushing ground reaction force away from you. What we've done in our shoe is we tilt those in a little bit so your force is going more towards you. So that's one area where how the shoe is implemented can dramatically affect performance. Is the force going away from your body, going towards your body? Clearly going towards your body is much more efficient. Use of your body provides more power and more stability.
Yeah, but then there's the forces of the foot inside the shoe.
Right.
That's why you need to have an upper that's really well thought out and in most cases a little bit more substantial.
Right. So that's what we've done at Athalonz. So, if you a lot of the comfort orientated shoes, they'll use a knit upper, which is like wearing a glorified sock or slipper, which feels comfortable when you first put it on. But if you're going to do an athletic movement like a golf swing, where there's a good bit of force being applied in the horizontal direction between your foot and the shoe, that knit upper is not doing anything to keep your foot from sliding in there. So with your foot sliding around in there, that's all wasted energy, and it takes time. So it throws the rhythm of your swing off besides wasting energy. So with a reinforced lateral side like we have, the foot doesn't move very much at all within the shoe. And then you couple that with the fact that we've got a little bit of slope, your foot stays locked into the shoe during an athletic movement like a golf swing. And then the third force is with the ground to the shoe. And every shoe that we've looked at so far, whether it's cleated or a spike shoe or a spikeless shoe, it's an omnidirectional force. So meaning that no matter what direction I'm moving my foot, whether it's rotationally and or linearly, the amount of friction is the same. So it's designed to lock my foot to the ground. Well, in a golf swing, there are certain times where you want your foot locked to the ground, but there's also times as you're transferring your energy from the back leg to the front leg, you want that rear foot to be able to move a little bit more. And so with the Athalonz shoe, we created the grip and glide tread pattern so that it's a directional force. So where you need that extra resistance between the shoe and the ground, we've added it, but it also allows where you want less resistance between the shoe and the ground, we've incorporated that too. So you get a more efficient energy transfer from your backside to your front side.
All right, you also mentioned weight.
Right.
Now, if it was a 100-meter dash, maybe a little bit of weight would make some difference, but when I'm walking to the cart and back, or even if I'm walking the whole course, I've never had an issue lifting my feet up because I was so tired or because the weight of my shoes just never had any impact at all.
No.
Now,
So-
putting all these things into a shoe, though, what does that do?
In comparison to a shoe that's designed to minimize weight, we are going to be a little bit heavier. But let me address your statement about, if I'm doing a 100-yard dash, maybe the weight of my shoes matter. So I did the math on this. I'd have to go find my spreadsheet. But I looked at an Olympic-type sprinter doing a 60-yard dash. And the difference between 3 ounces of shoe weight for a 200-pound athlete was less than 1/1000th of a second in speed. You get more difference in speed with a half a mile an hour wind in the athlete's face. So while technically a lighter shoe will make you faster, it'll be imperceivable to the athlete because it's such a tiny, tiny amount.
But there's no contest to walk the golf course faster.
No. It really is about performance and comfort when you're looking at the golf course and for golfers.
In the world of golf, shoes that are less than 16 ounces are considered to be lightweight. Ours is 11.7 ounces.
Right.
So it's very, very lightweight.
Right.
Even with all those substantial features built in.
I think we did a really, really good job of balancing performance with comfort and weight. And, and I think our shoe, we did a really, really good job with style. So we created, I think, what's probably the best golf shoe on the market right now.